And we're back here on the Patrick Reagan Show. Danny, the excellent producer, got us up and running now. So I think Jay, our regular producer, is doing some sort of public order, court ordered public service or something like that.
Something of the sort.
We can't talk about it. We'll ask him about it when he comes back.
Yeah, that could be your first segment next week.
Yeah. Where was Jay, and was the prison food good? All right. All right, coming up on this first segment, or I guess the second segment, really, of the show, and I hate to keep hitting Edward Snowden here over and over, but what he's doing is just really important. And the story started breaking yesterday that he's been offered asylum in Venezuela and Nicaragua. And Nicolas Maduro, he's the Venezuelan president, he made this statement. In the name of America's dignity, I don't know what he means by that, but I have decided to offer humanitarian asylum to Edward Snowden. And he told a military parade marking Venezuela's Independence Day on Friday. He went on to say, he is a young man who has told the truth in the spirit of rebellion against the United States, spying on the whole world. He said, who is the guilty one? A young man who denounces war plans, or the U.S. government, which launches bombs and arms against terrorist Syrian opposition against the people and legitimate President Bashar al-Assad. He also asked, who is the terrorist? Who is the global delinquent? Now, this is a sad commentary on what we have become as a country. As citizens, we should be outraged that Mr. Snowden can't come back to his home country for exposing the unconstitutional violations of our rights. Who is holding our government to account? Who is making those responsible live in limbo, hoping to find a country in which they can live? This is just another example of the victim being portrayed as the bad guy. You see, Mr. Snowden's the problem, not the United States government secretly spying on its citizens. We even have people who have libertarian principles stating they don't have a problem with the government doing this. Now, I have a clip here from John Stossel, and he was on Fox, and here's what he had to say.
If we have an NSA, I assume they're spying and people are trying to kill us, so I assume some of it's okay, and this data mining, for some reason, just doesn't threaten me that much.
Okay, Mr. Stossel, you're a media person, so there's probably crazy people out there who think you need to be killed. Why don't we put a GPS tracker on you? Put cameras all over your house. Read all your mail. Oh, wait, we're already doing that. If you missed that story, you can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/Patrick Reagan Show. But since there might be people out there trying to kill you, Mr. Stossel, let's get you good and surveilled so we can protect you. The only problem is the government can't protect you unless you have a full-time security detail. Now, also on this show, Judge Andrew Napolitano was on there, and here is what he said in response to Mr. Stossel's statement.
The John Stossel I admired when I started out as a lawyer and as a journalist would have stood up for the right to be left alone, the right to have the government's prying eyes away from us. The Constitution stands for that right, and the Constitution says government wants to pry, it has to present specific evidence about the target on whom it wants to pry to a judge, and the judge will issue a search warrant specifically describing, I'm paraphrasing the statute, the amendment, specifically describing the information to be seized or the person to be arrested.
You're running the clock out.
Exactly right. The Constitution doesn't allow this type of spying. Now, the last of that clip was the moderator accusing Judge Napolitano of trying to run the clock out. Funny how that happens just when he's making a very good point. You know, never mind that meddlesome Constitution. You're running the clock out, Judge. Here's another clip from Judge Napolitano.
On my Facebook page, I got 100 things I'm furious at government at. This just doesn't rise to the same level.
But if the government can violate the most profound protections in the Constitution because it doesn't rub you the wrong way.
It's always doing that.
Well, right, then there's no limit to what the government will violate.
But I got to pick my battles.
So John Stossel has to pick his battles, and complaining about government wasting money is a whole lot easier than trying to pick the fight with the government spy machine. If this scandal does anything, it's exposing the people who say they're libertarians but really aren't. They aren't ready for true freedom. They're scared of it. They're scared of being responsible for themselves. Want nothing to do with it. I've talked about it on this show in the past. It's like the movie The Matrix, where one of the characters states that most people aren't ready to see the truth. In fact, they don't want to know the truth. They are perfectly happy to live as a battery supplying power to the real world. If you've not seen that movie, then you probably don't know what I mean. If you haven't, I suggest you sit down and watch it. There are a lot of parallels between that movie and society today. People walking around with blinders on, not wanting to see what is really going on because they might have to fix it. Here's one last clip with Judge Napolitano.
You're right. Libertarians are calling me a traitor and disgusting, but I just can't get worked up about this one.
Will you concede that there's a violation of the Constitution, whether it rubs you the wrong way, whether you get worked up over it or not?
No, because some libertarians say this is not unconstitutional.
There you go. John Stossel won't even admit that all of this spying is unconstitutional. You probably wouldn't believe that unless you heard him say it. We have a whole lot of people in this country who are willing to allow the government to do whatever it wants to do in the name of safety and security. This is what we're fighting against. This is what Edward Snowden was trying to expose. Heck, we've been spying on everyone all around the world, and they're mad about it. The only reason they have anything to do with us still is because, well, frankly, we're paying them off. We're sending them foreign aid. We're sending them military aid, all kinds of money, so they'll let our government get away with whatever it wants. Now, the countries we can't buy off, we just intimidate them through economic sanctions, or we'll do covert operations to overthrow their government. Or we'll even have outright military actions disguised as the war on terror. If you think about it, you really shouldn't be surprised. The government does the exact same thing inside this country as well. It's secretly spying on us, violating our rights in any number of ways. Not only through spying, but the TSA, the DEA, the ATF, the EPA. To get away with this, they pay a large part of the American population off through direct government aid. And that keeps them bought off, as long as they vote correctly. There isn't really any area that the government is operating in today in which it isn't violating someone's rights in some way. Think about it and you'll see I'm correct. Even something as innocuous as telling someone they can't build on their land because the EPA has determined it might hurt the ecosystem there. Now, the landowner might get his day in court, but it's a wasted effort. The regulations that carry the force of law are on the books, and to many people, that's good enough. Doesn't matter whether the law is constitutional or not. Is there case law backing it? Okay, well, good, fine. If you want to hear that whole exchange between John Stossel and Judge Napolitano, which I suggest you do, it's very enlightening, although we hit most of the high points here today. But you can jump over at our Facebook page and grab that link, or you can just Google John Stossel and Andrew Napolitano, and that'll bring it up. The reason I played those clips isn't necessarily to make you angry and frustrated. It's to illustrate my point that most people aren't ready for true freedom and liberty. So when you're out there talking to your friends and everyone, trying to lead them to this enlightenment, don't get frustrated and give up. Most people don't want to see it. Most of them don't want to know. All they want to do is live their lives under the guise of freedom, not the actual practice of it. From the inside of this country, we're told we're free. But if you get outside this country and look in, you see just how much we really aren't free. And you don't have to travel abroad for this perspective. Just use your mind and think about things, how things used to be before we had this overreaching and intrusive government. Use your logical and reasoning abilities. I know in this culture today, they're probably a little rusty, but get the gears going. If you get them moving, you'll understand. All right, we're on the bottom of the hour break already here on the Patrick Riggins Show. When we come back, we'll have even more to get to here. I'm trying to look over here. We got some stuff on, well, why you should keep fighting this fight, and in case you're getting frustrated with all this. And a couple more things we'll try to get to before we run out of time here in the next 30 minutes. When we return on the Patrick Riggins Show, join us in a couple of minutes.